Hey guys, so this should hopefully be actually no, this will be the last video that we do on the STI before we get it started. Yesterday, Melanie and I came over here. I've got her with me at the shop today because I've got some arts and crafts projects for her to do while we're working on this. And she's gonna help me get this thing pretty much ready to run. Last night we came over, we grabbed the exhaust manifold for the car. I got this re-Cerakoted after it got modified the other day. I also, if you guys look here at the studs, I also went through and I re-tapped this flange to accept these what are they, like M10 by 1.5 normal turbo studs. These are Inconel with some Nord locks on them, so that way our turbo will not back off or anything like that. Because that's one thing I noticed before, and our old studs were like a mile long and they don't need to be. I also got the duct tubes done. And then down here we've got about 16.5 gallons of fuel, so that way we can get fuel in the car. Went out, grabbed 3 gallons of distilled water so we can get coolant in the car, because this car doesn't actually use coolant, it uses distilled water, as well as some water wetter, which I actually think I have in the chemical cabinet over there. After this video, the only things that will be left to do on the car to get it running is upload the new modified tune. I'm waiting on Josh to send me the old pump gas tune so that way I can get it on there. We also need to weld in the IAT sensor bung on the intercooler piping, but do that here in a little bit. Just get that tune back from Josh. Get the ID1300s swapped in, which they haven't been delivered yet, so I'm still waiting on those. Make the turbo support flange. Those should be good. So actually, I'm just gonna say we start off and just get some coolant in the car, some water, find out. So far, everything sounds good.
Good sound, bad sound.
Good sound. Means we got coolant going into it. I don't hear or see any coming out, so that's a good sign. I do need to grab one of these. Got 2 bottles of this stuff, water wetter. So with the STI, whenever I run coolant in the car in the summertime, the car tends to, it doesn't overheat, but it runs hotter than I want it to. So I use distilled water and just like a thing of water wetter. Yeah, so water runs cooler than coolant does. So the whole reason you use coolant in your car is it acts, it keeps your car cool, obviously. But on top of that, it also, it is leaking water. Where's it leaking from? Fuck. Where are you leaking from?
Well, it's not like a ton, it's just like
it's
dripping.
still coming from somewhere. Don't tell me there's a plug under the motor mount that I forgot.
It's not that bolt right there, right?
No. Ah! Got me in the eye! Good thing it's only water. I think there's a plug back there that I may have missed. That's the only thing I could think of. I guess the engine's just getting a bath right now. So I've got this spare motor. There's no coolant plugs on the bottom of this. It should be on this side. What is leaking? Trying to keep it together right now. It's not really working, because it's literally always something, and it's always something that's out of my control every single time. I never get the opportunity to break my own stuff. We went to put water in it to get this thing just prepped so that way we could start it once the injectors come in. And there was water leaking out of the bottom of the engine. Now there's not a lot of spots on an EG33 where it can leak out the bottom of the engine. If you look at this motor right here that I got on the ground, there is only quite literally 2 spots where coolant can leak out of this engine from the bottom, okay? Aside from the cylinder heads, but we're leaking from somewhere in this area. There's a plug right here, there's a plug right here. Both of those are coolant plugs. Now, we were leaking from somewhere back here, which initially had me thinking, okay, maybe the head gasket wasn't sealing, maybe it was something off the cylinder head. I took a peek down there and it was. So it was coming from somewhere back here underneath of the motor mount. There's no coolant areas back there. So it had me immediately worried that the block was scrapped. Right up there above the motor mount, right in that little crevice is a fat crack that goes all the way to the cooling jacket and is just leaking water out of it, which essentially means that this engine is just scrapped. Could we weld it? Maybe, but it's, see, there it goes, just starts leaking down again. Could we weld it? Maybe, but at the end of the day, it's not like coolant pressure is coolant pressure. Once that thing builds pressure, it's just gonna start pushing through eventually. It's the next day. I've taken some time to calm down. We're in a good state of mind right now. So I talked to the out front. They're gonna fix the problem. The only logical thing I can think of is when the block was drilled out for 1/2-inch studs, or when it was closed decked, it put too much stress on the block ended up cracking it because that crack is right in line with where one of the head studs go. So we're gonna, we have to strip down this engine completely today. I wanna get this thing sent out tomorrow. So we're gonna pull the engine today, take the heads back off, strip it down to a naked short block, bring the short block back to the house with us, pack it up there, get it sent out to Out Front tomorrow morning. Jeremy said that he'll have it done in a week from when they receive the block. They're going to cut this, they're obviously going to disassemble it all, cut the engine in half to see what went wrong. But it's just a big, I was supposed to have this car running today and now I'm taking it apart today, and you know, it's the little stuff. So, since I don't have a working car right now, I'm using the GTI. I need to go pick Melanie up from work at 2. When I go do that, we're gonna pick up her, we're gonna pick up the engine hoist. She's gonna come back over here with me, help me disassemble this engine. So that way we can bring it back and get it done. It's just, you know, it's always something, right? It's always something, but it's hopefully just a week delay. We'll get it done. We'll get it done, all right? So let's go ahead, start stripping down our engine right here and get it ready to be pulled so that way we can get a new one. That way we can get a new one up here. I've got the engine out. I can't actually get the clutch off until I go get a tool for it. I actually broke my Allen key 3/8 drive trying to get that off, and I broke it inside of the clutch. Sucks. So I'm gonna go to either Harbor Freight, Home Depot, somewhere, and buy a 1/2-inch drive 6mm Allen to be able to get those off. I put the clutch on way too well because now it doesn't want to come off. So we'll go get that tool. We'll pull the clutch off. We'll come back over here with Melanie, get this thing on an engine stand, strip it down, get the short block loaded in the car, take it back to the house, get it sent out in the morning to UPS to go back to Out Front, so that way we can get out a replacement engine, so that way we can get the blue car running again, because I'm tired of playing this game with this car. I'm tired of the little crap problems that are always out of my control. So we had Harbor Freight coming in clutch. I needed a 1/2-inch drive 6mm Allen. I had to buy the whole Icon, sell me just the one, which I get, it's in the kit, but you know, I kind of figured they would sell 1/2-inch drive ones, but they don't, regardless of the fact. I want to take a second, I'm waiting for Melanie to get off work because she's coming over to the shop with me. I want to take a second and talk about the block itself, because I know some people in the comments are going to be like, why don't you just repair the block? It's not as easy as just like repairing the block. When it comes to a crack in an engine, there's a couple things you got to keep in mind. The crack is going to continue over time, especially as an engine heats up, the crack's going to get bigger. Could we, hypothetically speaking, weld the crack? Yes, we could, but there's not really a point. I went down the rabbit hole yesterday of looking into welding cracked blocks and whatnot, and to weld a crack on an aluminum block like that, we would have to fully disassemble that engine, which means crank out, pistons out, rods out, etc. There's no point in repairing an engine that has a crack like that. It's smarter in the long run to just replace the short block, if that makes sense. Could we use JB Weld? It would probably work temporarily. It would probably work for a little while, I'm not gonna lie. I looked into the JB Weld option also, just in case. But regardless of the fact, whatever avenue you try to go down with cracked block repair, it doesn't always end well, and it typically doesn't. It's never really a permanent fix. It's more of just kind of a band-aid thing. Even with the exception of, even with welding the block, there's something that you have to keep in mind called metal fatigue. When metal stretches, when it cracks, when it breaks, it gets metal fatigue. That cast aluminum will never be as strong as it once was when it was initially cast, or even throughout the years as it continues to just be a cast. As soon as it develops a crack, that engine's pretty much scrapped. You can band-aid it to get it by for a little while, but in the long run, it's just not a smart option. And the main main reason that it potentially wasn't caught in inspection is maybe the crack wasn't fully visible up until you go to put the head studs in, you put the heads on, you torque everything down, because then it's actually stretching the material a little bit. When it stretches the material like that, then you can actually visually see the cracks like we could. Like when we get to the shop, before we take the head off, I'll show you guys what the block looks like, what the crack looks like with the head on there and with it off, to see if we can even see visual difference. Because that metal, you gotta remember, that metal has a lot of tension on it. Those head bolts or those head studs are torqued down to 140 foot-pounds. That's a lot, like that's a lot of force pulling on the block. So I don't know, while I was still fresh in my noodle, I felt like we should talk about it. So there goes another $140 in oil. We went out and bought a brand new oil pan so that way we could recapture our oil and reuse it. That's so annoying. It's just more annoying by the second. It seems the crack is worse than we thought, and it's not just external, it's internal. Because water and coolant or water and oil are mixing. Water and oil aren't supposed to mix. At all. I'm actually gonna have Melanie demonstrate for you. Would you like to hold the camera or move the engine? So the drain for the oil pan is on the back of the pan. When Melanie tips it, watch what comes out of the pan. Come on, there it is. There's water. There's literally water in the oil. I'm guessing that crack inside that block is way worse than we imagined.
Oh yeah, it's dumping out.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if it dumps up there. That's where the water pump is. So, I mean, it's just water, so it'll evaporate. That's just annoying though. Let us get this thing up on an engine stand. I'm gonna put the drain plug back in this for now, so that way no more water pees on the ground with oil contaminated. Dude, that sucks! Cause that's fresh, expensive new oil too. So now I gotta buy oil for this thing again, which this thing is a thirsty girl. This thing takes like 8 liters of oil, or 8 ounces, 8 quarts. I don't even know what we measure in anymore, but let's get this thing on an engine stand and do something. I don't even know anymore. Oil's out of this thing. We're gonna go ahead, I wanna pull this motor mount off because this is the side with the crack, so that way we can actually get a better view of it. Yeah, this one was fighting with under the car last night. Right there's our culprit. Right in there is our crack. I know it's kind of hard to see.
Let me see if I can see.
Okay, let me get a pokey thing to be able to point. Is where the crack is, where that little puddle of water's at. So it was leaking out of this crack here, which is right in line with one of the head studs. So I think that they drilled the head stud too far down and it caused it to do the cracks right there. So that's not fun. I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna tear this cylinder head off here. Oh, it made a mess. Yeah, that's weird. I've never seen that before. Yeah, I can see the crack right there. It's so hard to see, you guys. It's like a super hairline crack. I don't think it's actually gonna show up, but it's I don't even know how to describe showing it on camera. There's a crack right here. And I'm curious, once we take the cylinder head off, if that crack is gonna go away. Because right now there's a 140 foot-pounds of force being applied to this side of the block, so. So this cylinder head, all loosened up, head studs are out, it's only sitting on the dowels right now. If I mean, you guys couldn't even see it before, but down in here, the crack is recessed and you can't really see it anymore, but obviously as you can see on the oil pan, it's still leaking water. So obviously not a good sign, so figured we'd at least record this part of taking the head off. So Melanie, would you be so kind to film this area as we pull it off? Because obviously water and coolant were mixing, which obviously is not a good sign. Let's get this head gasket out of here. So before I go taking the other head off, I wanted to actually show you guys this. I went to flip the engine around. I got it set up right here just so I could take a peek at things again. Notice 2 more cracks. I thought they look just super, like from here you can't even see them. Unless you're like looking for them, you're not gonna see them. There's one crack right here that, okay, come on, right there. Oh, right there. There's another crack right there on the top of the engine. There's another one right here on the top of the engine. And then the thing that I think was one of our bigger problems is the closed deck. If you guys look at the closed deck over here, you'll see that it's a very flush surface. It's very flat, very flat. That's how it's supposed to be. If you look up here, there's a gap. Come on, folks. There's a gap right there in between the closed deck, and it is not flat at all. That's actually a raised surface right there. So that would explain why there's oil getting into the coolant jackets, because we have one oil port here, and if you look right there, the coolant jacket and the closed deck are starting to pull away from each other. There, here, down here, and going through. Now, I don't want you guys to be discouraged this. I would still 100% recommend out front. They're fully taking care of us on this situation, like building us a new block, new supplied case tabs, all of that stuff on them. So don't be discouraged by this. It's just, I don't know what happened here on this machining. I don't know if it was a Friday afternoon and the machinist wanted to go home and they just slapped the closed deck in there. I honestly couldn't tell you. All I can tell you is it's getting remedied, but it looks like these are our major problems. Is crack 1, crack 2, closed deck separating, not like the RA or the surface flatness isn't there on it because it's pulling away. And then that crack on the bottom right there, that's causing water to leak out of it. And I'm glad that I'm actually really glad that the water was leaking out. I was really pissed off yesterday, but if the water didn't leak out and we would have went to run this engine, it would have destroyed the engine, like almost within minutes of us burping the cooling system, because the oil and the coolant were mixing together. We would have had no idea. So it sucks, but you know, it could have been worse. So I'm gonna go through, pull this other cylinder head off. We'll get the oil pan off, the oil pickup tube off, all that. We'll get this guy slapped in the car and get it sent back down to California to be rebuilt for us. So this thing is all torn down now. I got it cleaned out with brake clean since we're gonna load it up. Hello. Could you go in the toolbox and grab the 17 mil wrench? So pull off the oil temp sensor and this oil sensor line doodad. Get this thing loaded up. It's just, if you guys look at this side of the deck, it's like absolutely perfect compared to, I mean, there's a little bit of schmutz on it, but that's from me spraying it down. That side's absolutely perfect. It's just this left-hand side that the deck is all wonky. It explains why the head gasket didn't seal, since the deck is significantly higher up and we have a crack, 2 cracks in the top, 1 crack in the bottom. But we're gonna get this thing home, get it loaded up, and get it sent back down to California, so that way we can start our 1 week turnaround time on this thing. Magically back home. So we have the engine with us. I've already got a shipping label made for it. I'm gonna get it packed up in the morning, dropped off at UPS in the morning. Hopefully it is truly just a week turnaround time on this. I really don't want this project to just continue to sit and continue to have issues. We have fixed literally every problem we've ran into on this thing, and my spirits are still high. I'm not going to give up on this. We're going to get the EG back. And like I said, I understand mistakes happen, things happen. Outfront is taking care of us fully. They're supplying us with new head gaskets. They're taking care of the block issue. So all the other seals and gaskets, for the most part, I can reuse, like the valve cover gaskets, the cam seals, that kind of stuff, because they're all fresh. The way I took off the valve covers, I took off the cam cap and just slid them off so that way I could reuse them. But dude, that sucks. I mean, shit happens. Like I said, it's not the end of the world. I'm gonna try to hold true to my word and say that the next video on that car is going to be it starting up. I just got the injectors just got dropped off. They're sitting in front of me right now. So it's gonna be a lot of work to get that car running in one video, but I'm gonna try my damnedest to do it all in just one video. So fingers crossed. But with that, that's all I got for you guys on this one. Not the video that I wanted to put out, but it's the video that we got. So if you like the video, you know what to do. I mean, it's a weird video to like, but like it for your boy with his support of this stuff. I just ate Taco Bell because I just spent all my money on the Subaru, but the next video coming out should be on the hatch, getting that thing done. The new engine harness shows up for that car tomorrow. You guys will get the full breakdown on that one. That one's been a handful also. But anyways, that's all I got for you guys on this one. If you like the video, you know what to do. Go ahead, hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, cyan, whatever color it turns for you. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be, since apparently I have the worst luck in the world, go ahead, hit that button somewhere in one of these corners. No idea which one quite yet, but with that, I will catch you in the next one. So peace out, homies. Woo!